The ending is always the same. I start working on a game. I get about 15% done. I think what I've made is fucking dog shit, and then I start all over again. That didn't stop me from grinding away like I'm a fucking 1870s coal miner night after night. I was sitting in my fucking chair, crisscross applesauce, so long my ass wore out the seat. I actually had to throw away one of my chairs because my literal ass was imprinted into the chair. I started with this white cowboy character, but then that sweet baby ink check cleared and I settled on this design. I had this idea of these clan-like cultists that stumble upon an ancient artifact, and they start doing evil shit, like altering the world and summoning demons and shit. So that's when the player's character is enlisted because he's one of the world's best bounty hunters, so he's tasked with putting a stop to all this stuff. I started with just a simple template character. Early on, it was important for me to nail that stiff, I'm about to shit my pants movement of the old Castlevania games, but there were areas where I deviated. For example, I don't like how in the old Castlevania games, when you try to jump, you have to be completely committed to that jump. So I made my jump a variable jump height so that you can control your in-air movement as well as jump higher depending on how long you press the button. So it's a lot more like Super Mario World because Super Mario World f***ing rocks. For the characters, I went with 2D sprites and low poly 3D for the environment. The low poly 3D is like a get out of jail free card because it gives me an easy way to make something unique by just editing 3D models that I buy. If I wasn't a poor I would just have the whole game be 2D sprites, but all you Picassos are so expensive. The sprites are set up in a way that's really cool. So say the player's standing next to a lantern. You can see the player's shadow and the light bouncing off the sprite. Looks pretty fancy. With my freelance artist beginning work on my enemy and character designs, everything's trending in the right direction. The enemy designs look pretty clan-like, maybe too clan-like. You know, back in my day, we could kill Nazis in Wolfenstein and have good times, high fives all around. But fuck up is down, everyone's hypersensitive, and you know, this probably isn't gonna fly with a publisher. So that was my first mistake in my mind. Characters are probably gonna need to be altered at some point. Leave me a comment, tell me what you think. How would you change or alter them? I have an alternate idea for the story and what I want it to be, but I'll save that for another video. After 2 months of working, I've carved out a nice little demo of what I was trying to do here. The rifle enemy shoots when it detects you, the player, with a raycast, and then if he doesn't see you for a while, he turns around and goes back to his business. Then I got this drunk cultist that throws bottles at you like the skeleton in Castlevania. He's got a pretty cool transition where his bottle goes from a 2D sprite to a 3D model, and then it shatters on the ground. And then finally I got this generic raven, and he kind of does a sideways U-path towards you, so if you walk in the bird's proximity, it does its whole path at you. So everything on the surface looks good, but that would be wrong. It is a fucking mess. It's kind of like the Homer Simpson meme where his skin is pulled back. You've seen the one. If you land just on the corner of a platform, you get stuck in an eternal fall state. I didn't use a state machine for the player's code. Whoops. Player doesn't handle slopes that well in general, so that kind of limited me on map design. I had to make fucking really rigid, boxy maps. The enemies too, it's the same boat. You know, they bug out in certain scenarios because of how I coded everything with duct tape. So I just dropped this shit in the garbage bin and decided to start over again. Fuck. For my brothers and sisters out there that code, you understand the fucking pain and trauma you go through when you're trying to code something and you have no fucking idea what you're doing. The sheer difficulty of the fucking task. So to just say, yes, I've climbed that mountain made out of glass, I'm going to now climb back down it and then go up it a second time. It hurts my brain. So I would like to preface when I say I started over again, I mean just the code. I still had the sprites and the little test level I made. I just took one good look in the mirror and I said, man to man, this ain't it. It's not good enough. So this time around, I had a much smarter, bigger brained friend than I help with the ground detection, and he got me on the right path using state machines for my player controller, and right now I got this. This works great. There's so many improvements in so many different areas. Look at that fucking slow movement. Bring a tear to my eye. I have a whole advanced platform system now that can be expanded to make some really cool platforms. Look at me on the tilty domino. I now have a system where I'm using a hash set list so that instead of lazily spawning the whip hurt box in front of the player when they attack like I was before, it's actually tracking the collision box every frame of the whip animation. So you can fall and whip and you'll still hit stuff. Or you can whip and on the backswing you'll hit something behind you. Now this has potential in my eyes. There's so many cool ideas I have that I'm trying to incorporate without getting too much into the feature creep territory. I like the idea of the whip being able to interact with things. So for example, whipping a lever and then pulling it backwards by moving backwards to open a door, or whipping apples off a tree to eat them. There are a lot of challenges with this project. Like I said before, paying a freelance artist to make frame by frame is expensive and painful to my wallet. And also, I mean, coding is not my specialty. None of this is really. But that's what's fun about life. Life is dynamic and full of challenges. So my advice to you is go do the hard thing. Climb that mountain. Talk to that girl with gigantic breasts and be a better person because of it.